What am I trying to say? I'm so tired. 11:11. I don't know what that means. Hi everyone, it's Cicely, otherwise known as SewBlack, and in today's video I'm doing my 2021 costuming year in review. And basically what this video is going to be about is just me recapping all the things that I made this year, my accomplishments, my experience in the historical costuming community, specifically the online historical costuming community, and then at the end just kind of going over what my goals and plans are for 2022, what projects I hope to accomplish, and then just what goals I have for costuming in general for the year 2022. So yeah, I guess without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so starting off first with things I made this year. So my list of things that I made this year is not really that long. In fact, over half of the things that I've made this year can be found in my Sew With Me UFO video that I posted I don't know how many months ago, but I'm still gonna recap some of that stuff anyways, just because I made them and this is my year in review. So yeah, anyways, so things that I made this year. I made my, well, actually I should say I finished making my 15th century stays from the Taylor Tudor pattern. Is that how it goes? Taylor, Tudor, Tudor, Taylor, some combination of those words. I made those stays finally, and I love looking at it. Could it be better? 100%. It was the first real historical thing that I've ever made in its entirety, and it turned out pretty good. I think it turned out pretty good. It fits as well as I think it should fit. I've never worn a pair of stays before. I've never worn a corset before, so I don't know. I can't really speak too much on as far as like the fit goes, but visually, she's beautiful. She's what I wanted. Golden beautifulness, and I love it. Second thing that I made was my cottagecore inspired apron, which was a very impromptu project that I started like March. Oh my God, I started that project in March and it didn't really get going until May. That's what ended up happening. Yeah, so I started this kind of impromptu cottagecore apron, beautiful embroidery using one of Silver Snow's, who is like a Korean embroidery YouTuber. And I used one of her tutorials to make this like beautiful rose embroidery on the front of the apron. And it is so beautiful. I love it. It was my first real attempt at doing embroidery on anything. I had never attempted to do embroidery work on anything before. And I don't know if I ever mentioned this in my Instagram post or even in the video where I'm actually making or like finishing making the apron, but that apron was made using a top sheet for a bed, like a bed top sheet. And I didn't realize this until like I had already kind of started the project, but like that fabric was polyester, and like trying to do embroidery work on polyester fabric, it's horrible. So probably wouldn't use a top sheet again for an apron, but for like the very first apron that I've ever made and the first embroidery project that I've ever done, I think that it turned out really well. This project currently lives in the back of my closet, and my hope is that next summer I'll actually be able to wear it. So that was one project that I did. The other one that I did was I don't even know if I would really call it an Italian chemise, but like that's initially what it started out as. And I finished that project. I have literally nothing to wear it with. I just started the project several years ago and then just wanted to finish it. I go over that in my UFO video, but I haven't worn it since I made it. It just sits in my completed project bin, and that's just kind of where it lives. My hope is that like now that it's done, it will encourage me to make projects to wear with it, and when I do, it will be ready and waiting. And then the final thing that I made this year, which actually was super fun to make, it was probably the like quickest project that I made the entire year, but it was my 1960s pinafore dress that I made using a vintage pattern. It was the first time that I ever used a vintage pattern, by the way. I'd never actually used a vintage pattern before then, and surprisingly really easy. I don't know why. I guess I was just anticipating that it would be a little bit more difficult, but actually pretty easy. And I love that dress. I love it. I did a whole like 1960s photo shoot in it. I got these really cute black and white earrings to go with it. And I think it's super cute, it's super fun, and yeah, I don't know, it was just like a really fun summer project to work on, and I love looking at the pictures of that dress because it's just so cute, and I want to make more. So yeah, that was a really fun project to work on, and I haven't worn it again since I did that photo shoot, but I'm totally confident in the fact that I'll find some day, some event, some reason to wear it again next summer, so I'm not even worried about it. So next we are going to talk about my accomplishments. So my accomplishments this year as far as costuming goes. Wow, I actually didn't realize that I had done as many things as I did until I started writing them down, and I was like, oh wow, that happened this year? I don't know, time is like a blur to me pretty much after 2019. What is time? I don't know. It doesn't exist to me. But anyways, things that I accomplished this year. I started a YouTube channel this year, which, wow, can't believe that happened. I've been talking about making a channel for so long that now that it's like here and I'm actually making videos for it, I still can't believe that I'm actually doing it. It's really strange, but a YouTube channel, I made one. Like, I did that. So yes, YouTube channel. Second thing, I revived finally my sewing blog. Now I have a place to put all of the projects that I don't necessarily want to invest the time of like making a full video for. I can just, you know, make a quick post with some pictures and make a blog out of it, and done. So yes, I made a blog. So another thing that I didn't even realize, so I created my Instagram account under SewBlack in October of 2020. But over the course of this year, I've gone from around maybe 200 to 300 followers, starting around like February, January, to now in December being at a little over 3,500, which is like insane to me. I've never had 3,500 followers on anything. I don't even know if I've had 35. I don't know, but I'm very satisfied with that growth. One thing I noticed that did contribute to my Instagram growth was the comic series that I started in February titled Black Costuming Problems or something along those lines. And I started it as a part of like Black History Month, like just something that I wanted to contribute that kind of was relevant to like my niche and like, you know, the experience of a Black costumer. And one of the comics that did extremely well was my comic on cosplaying while Black. That comic blew up. It also helped me realize that I really enjoy making those kind of comics, like comics talking about the experience of like being Black while cosplaying, being Black while doing historical costuming, being Black while doing old fashion or something like that. Like I actually really enjoy making those kind of comics, partly because they're all things that I have experienced, and I don't know, just like making that kind of stuff out there that other people can connect with who maybe have felt similarly in these kind of niche, you know, hobbies or whatever is really nice and enjoyable. So yeah, that was one thing that I did, was have a really successful doodle comic that is so funny because initially I wasn't even gonna post that comic because I didn't think that it was good. I didn't think that it was interesting. Like as I was typing it out the day of, I was like, this is so lame. Like literally someone else probably wrote this out, and like I'm basically just kind of reiterating something that someone else has probably already said. And then it like blew up and I was just like, okay, so I see you like this. Yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of like overwhelming to kind of get that kind of a response from people because I just wasn't that confident in my work ever. Like I just was never really that confident in my work. So getting that like really positive response from people was like, whoa, okay, thanks. And the final thing that I have on my list was making my first in real life costuming friend, as well as making several online costuming friends. Yeah, before I joined Instagram under the name SewBlack, I didn't have any friends who were interested in costuming, let alone historical costuming. And so over the past year, it's been really fun to connect with other people who are interested in costuming and have other interests outside of costuming. Like we share other interests outside of just costuming, which is really nice. I definitely consider that to be a big accomplishment for me because I didn't have that before. So yeah. All right, so next we're talking about my experience in the online historical costuming community. And I feel like if I had to rate my experience over the past year in this community, I would say it's probably somewhere in between like a 3.5 and like a 5 on a good day. Somewhere in between there is what I would probably rate my experience. When I first joined the community back in October, I joined because I wanted to make friends. I wanted to connect with other people who were interested in historical costuming and enjoyed this hobby. You know, I wanted to go to events. I wanted to finally start sewing, you know, all of the projects that I had saved in my little Pinterest historical costuming inspiration folder. I wanted to put myself out there and show, you know, Black representation in this space where I didn't feel like I saw a whole lot, and ultimately just be the person that I wish I had seen throughout all of the years that I had lurked this community. However, and I'm not sure when exactly it happened, I can't pinpoint, you know, a specific date, but like at a certain point that kind of quickly spiraled into me becoming, you know, suddenly hyper focused on anti-racism type activism, which basically led to me feeling constantly burnt out and questioning my reasoning for wanting to be in this community. It was really just me, if not every day, then every other day, asking myself, why am I still in this community? Why would anyone want to be in this community? Is this fun? I'm not having fun. Is anyone having fun? When does fun start? And why would anyone want to do this if this is what the experience is like? It was basically that. That was my entire time. I feel like this year easily could have been an 8 or a 9, maybe even a 10 if we're gonna be like super optimistic, but it ultimately ended up being a 3.5 to a 5 for me. And I feel like that's due in part to a lot of the shift that occurred. And pretty much from that point onwards, it was not really enjoyable anymore. I didn't have the same level of excitement that I had when I first joined, and it's just been a constant struggle ever since that point to try to get it back. Even today, I can't really say that I'm like that enthused, that excited about historical costuming stuff, because I'm just not. And I feel like that shift that I made like played a huge role in why the experience just wasn't that great. You know, like, don't get me wrong, like, I'm all for being actively anti-racist and holding people accountable for the blatantly racist and bigoted things that they say while also claiming to be a part of this community, or, you know, talking about or collaborating with other people on the ways in which we can make this community a safer and more inclusive space for BIPOC people, and then actually doing things to make it a safe and inclusive space for those people. Like, I'm there with you 100%. I'll do that all day. But like, what I'm not here for, and what I feel like I've kind of witnessed over the course of this year, which has unfortunately drained the life from me, it's this like kind of 24/7, 365, rain or shine, anti racism, vigilanteism, where we're like going out of our way to seek out racism in the community and bigotry in the community and hold people accountable for like the smallest thing that could even possibly be perceived as racist. And this kind of us versus them mentality that I feel like comes out sometimes in the community when certain things happen, like, that's where you've lost me. And just to be clear, when I talk about this stuff that I have kind of noticed over the past year, I'm really only speaking to like a specific group of people, not necessarily saying that everybody who is in the community trying to make it a more inclusive and safer space to be in is like this, but I've definitely noticed that there is a specific group of people who act this way. And once it starts getting to that point where it's like that's all you think about, that is all you see in the community, it stops being fun. I don't know, I think for me it's a really confusing space to kind of be in, because it's like, on the one end, yes, I really do want to, like I said, help contribute to making this space or this community feel more welcoming for specifically Black people to be in. Like, that's something that I would really love to contribute to. But like at the same time, I just feel like there's a group of people in this community who are also saying the same thing, but like messaging is just totally off. Like, maybe you had me at like the first bit, and then you slowly lost me as like the messaging went on, because a lot of it is really just yelling at somebody who isn't even following you. Or I would say probably like my biggest pet peeve was people airing their grievances towards these like bigger costumers in their stories, and it's like, okay, but like, do we have to do that? Maybe we don't need to like hinge our happiness on what these bigger costumers do or don't do. Because the thing that always like drove me crazy, even now I would say that's still something that just like makes me shake my head. I'll just say that. I know for a fact that the people who are kind of airing their grievances over like what these bigger costumers said or didn't say or did or didn't do, like if say tomorrow one of these bigger costumers, like, I don't know, did a 180, right? And like put out the perfect quote unquote apology, did the exact thing that this person is like basically yelling at them for, I still feel like these same people who are saying that that's what they want to see would be there ready and waiting to pick it apart and tell you all the reasons why it's not good enough and it will never be good enough and why they shouldn't have even tried to do it in the first place. Like, does no one else see this? It can't just be me. Like, I know it can't just be me, but sometimes it feels like it is. Right now, it seems like the focus is really just on calling out racism, calling out bigotry, calling out, white privilege and prejudice. Like, I don't know. I just feel like the energy of this specific group of people just slowly started to rub off on me. And once it gets on you, it's really hard to get it off. It's really hard to then like stop doing these things, because you think in the moment like you're doing good, like this is helping the community, this is what's making it safer, this is what is ultimately going to lead to us being able to have fun. We meaning like, BIPOC people. This is what will lead to fun, right? But like, when does fun start? That's where I'm at right now. When does fun start? When does twirling happen? Okay, I have aprons sitting in the back of my closet right now waiting for twirling. When do we get to twirl? Apparently we don't ever get to do that, because all we're doing is talking about racism. And like, I just don't know who lied and started the rumor that talking about racism was like a fun and enjoyable topic, but like, it's not. It really isn't. And as somebody who experiences it probably all the time, I don't know, because I'm not, reading everything that deep, but who has experienced it, I would just love to have a moment of time where like I don't have to think about it. I would just love to have a brief moment, a brief period of time where like maybe we don't have to talk about that today. Maybe we could just talk about twirling in a dress. Maybe we could just do that. Does that mean that that is all we have to talk about and we can never talk about anything that pertains to being actively anti-racist? No, that isn't what I said, but I'm sure that's what some of you heard. But like, I just don't feel like it needs to be all consuming, I guess is my point. And I feel like for some people, it truly is the bane of their existence in this community to solely be talking about racism and bigotry and white privilege, and basically just venting their anger and frustration at white costumers for not doing this thing, for doing this thing, for not saying this thing, for saying this thing, and giving no opportunity for people to learn or grow. If there's going to be a zero tolerance policy for people in this community who make a mistake and like that's kind of it, you're done, you can no longer sit with us kind of vibe, then I don't want to be a part of that. Unfortunately, I don't. I feel like if that's kind of the way that, people are going to go, then it's like, okay, you can go your way and I'm going to go my way. To sum it up, basically, I feel like what started off as me wanting to have, this really fun, carefree, like escapist experience in this community, like quickly spiraled into having this, I want to actually escape the community, miserable time. And that is just not something that I want to do in 2022. Like, I don't want to be sitting around with a group of people talking about someone I don't like. I don't want to be going out of my way to find, racism and bigotry, not just in the historical costuming community, but apparently in any community adjacent to it or whatever. I don't really want to read any more, angry, indirect stories from people yelling at either bigger costumers or just a group of people who just flat out are not following them. And I just don't want to be in this energy of feeling so drained and so burnt out, and then also watching these very same people who are putting out all of this information or speaking up also about these things be burnt out and low energy and also plotting their escape from the community. I just don't want to be in that. I don't want to be in that energy anymore. So that's definitely something that I'm leaving behind. I'm not doing that again. In 2022, fun is prioritized over everything at this point because, if I'm being honest, I've just suffered enough. I don't want to go through what I went through again in this community. It was not fun. It was horrible. And I feel like if I had to endure another year of that, which I won't, but if I had to, quite literally, I think I would just completely write off historical costuming. I just don't feel like it would be worth it if I had to repeat 2021 all over again. So 2022, we're prioritizing fun. So moving on from that, let's talk about my 2022 goals and potential projects that I would like to do next year, but we'll also see what happens. But potential. I think maybe the main thing that I would like to make next year would be an Italian Renaissance dress, specifically a late 14th century, early 15th century style dress. That would be goals. That would be goals. I've always wanted to make an Italian Renaissance dress, hence my lonely chemise that's just kind of chilling in the completed project bin outside my door. But yeah, an Italian Renaissance dress would be probably at the top of my list for things that I would want to make next year. Second to that would be a project that I kind of started this year, which was my kind of housebook dress. And when I talk about housebook dress, I'm talking specifically about the dresses shown in the Master of the Housebook / Master of the Amsterdam Cabinet book, which if I end up doing that project, I'll go into more detail as to what even all of that is. But basically, it's just a dress that's shown in this Master of the Housebook book is what it is. So that would be kind of another top project. And then I think the last thing that I would really like to do would be, I don't know what people call them, but I've seen this a few times on people's Instagram. It's where you find an image and you basically recreate everything in the image. You are basically the image. It's like a mirror image. What is that called? What does that do? It's not like a doppelganger kind of thing. It's literally where you just find a picture, historical painting, and then you just recreate the painting. So you recreate the dress, you recreate, the look and the background and everything, and then it's a side by side of you and the painting. I want to do that. I have one potential, but I don't know. I'm kind of nervous to do it. It's really cute. I love it, and I think it'd be really fun to make because it involves black work, which is something that I really wanted to try, but we'll see if I get to doing that. Yeah, those are potential historical related projects and things that I would like to do. So fingers crossed that I actually can at least do one. I'll just say that. I would love to at least cross off one of those things from my list. So fingers crossed. So moving on to my costuming goals for 2022. So after my little historical costuming experience rant, the number one thing on my list or my goals list for 2022 is to prioritize fun. That is number one on the list, hands down. I am here trying to prioritize fun over everything at this point because, as I mentioned, I have suffered enough. Seriously, at this point, I just have to believe that there has to be fun out there somewhere in this community. I see it enough in people's posts on Instagram. I have to think that it's possible for me to also experience that as well. And so that's what I'm out here trying to find in 2022. You're welcome to come along. If not, happy angry story post. I won't be there with you, unfortunately. I'm out here trying to have fun. The second would be to make my first historical costume. That's second. for sure. So after fun, we're trying to make our first historical costume. Third thing for sure that I want to try doing is history bounding. I really want to incorporate more history bounding items in my wardrobe. So as I mentioned, I think a little bit earlier, I have really gotten into Lolita fashion. It is like so amazing. I love it. I'm having a ball. But I think I would be having even more of a ball if I were wearing, you know, medieval slash Renaissance inspired outfits as like my everyday, and trying to find a way to make swords a casual thing. Also casual armor. Oh my god, casual armor needs to be a thing, and I'm going to make it a thing in 2022. I hope. I really have to get through this like 30-yard fabric challenge first, and then it'll be a thing, but like casual armor. That's gonna happen. So number 4 is to complete a goal that I had for this year that I wasn't able to do, which was creating 1960s inspired summer wardrobe. That seems so fun to me. I have so much fabric that I just didn't use this year because I was just burnt out over, you know, what we talked about earlier. That I would love to be able to take and actually create, you know, a cute, fun 60s vintage summer wardrobe. I think it would be so fun. I love the 60s. I love the vibrant colors. And just for summer, I think that's such a fun look. So I'm going to attempt round 2 to try and do that again. I already have one dress, so I just need, what, like 12 more and I'll be great. So I'm gonna try to do that in 2022. Next, more aprons, okay? So I made the one cottagecore apron, but I really want more aprons just in general in my life, you know, because like the one that I made, I said earlier, is like a sitting apron, right? No casual, you know, relaxed lounge around the house kind of apron. But we also need like the working apron, the gardening apron, the cooking apron, the wet craft apron, the dry craft apron, the sewing apron. The list goes on. I need more aprons. I would like to do that. Number 6 would be gardening outfits. I've been talking about making a gardening outfit for like the longest time. I just feel like my experience gardening would just be so much more enjoyable if I just had a cute outfit to wear while I'm like planting seeds and checking on my watermelon or like watering my marigolds or whatever. Like I just think it'd be so cute, and I don't know, just make the experience more fun. Number 7 would be making more cottagecore inspired clothing. I follow so many creators who do cottagecore inspired stuff, and I highlighted several of them in my 75 BIPOC accounts you should be following, and literally they just make me want to make these like voluminous dresses with like maximum twirl potential and just go outside and like forage for things and like pick all of the flowers and like find all of the ladybugs and do all that stuff. And I love that so much. So I would really love to make maybe some like nice dresses or some skirts or something, even more aprons, because you know you can never have too many aprons. And yeah, start building like this mini cottagecore type wardrobe. That would be really cute as well. So that's another thing. So I already mentioned this, I think, in my historical costuming experience rant, but going to in-person costuming events, assuming that it is still safe to do so in 2022, I would love to attend my first in-person historical costuming event. I feel like that would be super fun. I think right now it's really just a matter of like finding one that fits kind of like my interests, because I feel like a lot of the events are more geared towards like 17th century to like 19th century type events, which is a huge period of time that I don't really have a lot of interest in. So finding events that are more like medieval or Renaissance type of things outside of just like the Renaissance fair, I think would be like a more of interest to me. And then finally, the last thing I have on my list of costuming goals for 2022 is to create content for people who want to help build a better community. You know, I talked a lot about in my like experience that they're kind of this group of people who like are talking about wanting to build this better community, but I feel like their focus is on people who have already shown or who have flat out said that they do not want to do those things, and yet their focus is still pretty tuned in on them. What I'm talking about is making content for people who actually want to change, who actually want to do these things, versus trying to force a group of people who have already kind of shown and said they don't want to do these things to do these things. So that's what I'm going to do. I also want to create content for Black and brown people in this community that they can relate to. I feel like likely this will be done through comics because I really enjoy making comics, and I think that even though they're super cute, they can be really impactful. So I think that that's really what I'm going to be focusing on more come 2022. But okay, that is pretty much my video for today. That was my 2021 costuming year in review. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's been a up and down kind of one. I feel like, you know, even though my experience in like the historical costuming community wasn't really that great, I feel like I'm at a point now where I'm so much more optimistic and I'm excited, I guess basically is what I'm trying to say. I'm really excited about 2022. I feel like I've seen what I've needed to see in 2021. I've done that, and now I'm ready to kind of start fresh and new in 2022 and have this new experience where we prioritize fun. It doesn't mean that we, you know, ignore all of the problematic and racist things that are happening in the community, but it just means that we don't make that a hyper focus point of our experience in the community. But yes, that has pretty much been my video, and thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in 2022, where we're gonna have hopefully lots of new projects and also lots and lots of fun. Prioritizing fun, showing that it is possible for a Black creator in this space to actually have fun and enjoy this hobby. Yes, that is what we're going to be doing in 2022. So thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye!